Hello, and welcome to Regency Rumors. And just like the history in period dramas, my life is a mess. If you're new to the channel, I talk about period dramas, history, and historical fiction. The last video I did is probably one of the most aesthetic videos that I have done on this channel. And now we are standing in front of a blank wall that I have in order to make videos from. And yeah, gonna explain why. You guys who have been with me since my first 50 to 100 followers, you know that I have come a long way when it comes to making YouTube videos. I was looking at the way I did one of my first videos where I cut like my entire bottom torso off, so it was just the first half of my head for the it was like a 30-45 minute essay style video, and it was just of my head. So I've lived in the UK for about 13 years now, but I'm originally from North Carolina, and I go back about every Christmas, winter holiday, and then sometimes in the summer. And this Christmas, my family surprised me with essentially a YouTube studio in one of an unused space on their property that they were like, hey, we're gonna turn this into like an office space for you and you can use it for YouTube. And my dad is a great music man, so he knows all about like soundproofing and that sort of thing. And so he has redone this entire space into this really cool, like historically inspired YouTube studio for me and an office space for me to edit and things like that. And so I feel really lucky to have that space, but unfortunately it's about 3,000 miles from me most of the year. I did pre-record a few videos while I was there, so don't worry, you will be seeing that space a bit more. However, time flies and I am back in the UK now. And I was looking over my footage and comparing the setup that I have here in my tiny flat in Wales to the entire setup that I have in the US. And I was like, this is just a bit lackluster in comparison. So this video is going to be different than any video I've done here on the channel. It's going to be a Jane Austen period drama, history inspired yet modern and colorful makeover of my tiny office. And by makeover, I just mean this wall primarily, but I do a lot of commentary videos, sitting down in my office, and I don't want to talk in front of a white wall. Like, that would be so boring. So this is not going to be anything like the studio in the States, but we are going to transform these walls to make it a fun, bright, period drama inspired space that we can historically yap in. So this is how narrow my office space is. I started doing YouTube about 3 years ago, and I found that there's been so much useful information online on how to make content in a small space. I started recording in my front room with my husband Jordan's phone and lighting from just the ceiling light. And it's just super inconvenient setting up a whole YouTube setup in your living room and then breaking it all down again for it to be a functional space over and over again. So slowly over time, I've learned about lighting and video editing and vlogging cameras and audio in a small space. And I've made loads of mistakes. I'm still making mistakes. But there are some fantastic videos on YouTube on how to turn a small corner of an office into a YouTube studio, and that's what I've done here. Everything about my setup is attached to my desk by heavy-duty clamps, my camera and my lights. I've got 2 key lights. One is a large circular flat key light that shines most of the setup. Then I have a second smaller key light that's meant to shine the other half of my face. I'm still learning about ways to make my lighting more dynamic, I guess. Eventually, I'd love to get a desk on wheels in this tiny space so I can push the desk over if I need to move it out of the way, because this desk is so heavy with all this on it that when we do need to move it, it's really inconvenient. But for now, this is a really great way to have everything contained in one space that I can just record in a moment's notice, or it can just be a functional desk the next. So I do not even know where to begin here. I have a bunch of different pieces, but where to actually put them on the wall is gonna be a hard task. So I'm gonna pull up some of these prints first so that we can talk about them, and then I'll have some B-roll where you guys can see us putting them up on the wall in the order that we put them in. So I think I'm gonna start out with my print of Charlotte Bronte, which I got a few years back during a trip to Haworth. in Yorkshire, which is where the Bronte family is from. We visited the Bronte parsonage and did a hike around the moors for about a 3-day weekend, and I just absolutely fell in love with the area. And if you've never been to Haworth before, it's one of the most like picturesque places, but that's not all what history is about. Haworth is on like a hill, and the main road and a lot of the businesses, yeah, they're on a steep hill that you've got to walk up to get to the top of the parsonage, because the parsonage is at the top of the hill. And unfortunately, that graveyard used to seep out and down during like rainstorms and things like that into the water supply. And so Haworth had such a high rate of deaths and illnesses compared to other areas in the north in the Victorian era. And one day I would like to do a video on that, because in a lot of ways it's really tragic and spooky, and I think it contributed to people's health and their mental health. I think there was a lot of melancholy in places like Haworth during that time, and yeah, I think it could have contributed to our girls is here, writing process, but I am a basic white girl. So Jane Eyre is my favorite novel. I don't know what it was about 14-year-old me that latched on to that story. Such a toxic love story, but you know what? It wasn't his fault that his wife was like that, and he was trying to keep her safe. So I got this during a visit at Chatsworth. I feel like it's a really colorful, fun version of Darcy and Elizabeth. I love the peacocks down at the bottom. And my main colors for the channel, I don't know if you notice or care, but it's one of those things that like as a YouTuber, you're like, I should think about this. Anyways, my main colors are this, like a very similar version of this blue, a light blue, pink and yellow. And so I thought, great addition to the wall. Besides Jane Austen and the Regency era and all things Victorian, another thing that I love is 1930s, 40s, and 50s murder mysteries, and no one does them better than Agatha Christie. And my favorite characters are Poirot and Miss Marple, and I loved this modern print. I got it on Etsy. My biggest tip as someone who has lived in the UK for 13 years, if you are a tourist coming to the UK, is please go to the antique shops. I think there are so many affordable things that you can find, you can put in a suitcase and take home with you. And two, so for instance, with America not being that old, there's not a lot of stuff from the 1700s and 1800s that you can, early 1800s that you can find in antique stores that wouldn't be like behind glass and a lot of money. And in the UK, there are some really like affordable, sometimes off the wall things that you can find that you're like, whoa, I had no idea like that you could even buy this, that this just wouldn't be in a museum, that are in a lot of these antique stores. And I think the reason why some tourists just don't go into them is because they're like, well, I'll go in there and there'll be a piece of furniture and like, I can't afford to ship that home, or like, how would I ship that home? Or like, thinking of things as being like an expensive vase or whatever. And there are so many like small pieces that you can find, especially if you're like me and you are a period drama fan where you're like, I want some stuff that's going to make my space look historically inspired, but I also have only X amount of room in my suitcase. This is a great example. I got this in Hay on Wye, which is a bookish town in mid Wales. So it's got the name Alice Boyd, and it said that she lived from 1825 to 1897. And it says that this is Pulham Church, January 1868. So fun. Anyways, this little watercolor here, it's gorgeous. I got this print for £10, and it's of a little girl, and I think she's holding the hand of an older woman here. This is them like walking into the church, and some of the colors in this are just like gorgeous. To me, this is something flat, it's something you can fly with, and they're just so interesting, slice of history that you can have on your own wall. So I want to show you guys the fashion plates that I got, and I got these at an antiques fair that we just came across that was in a community center, and there was loads of different antiques being sold in this big hall. And this guy that was there, I was like, oh my gosh, these Georgian like prints are adorable. He was like, I'll give a lot of them to you for like £20. I was like, oh my gosh.
Fashion plates were illustrated prints that showed off the latest clothing trends before photography or social media existed. Dressmakers and fashionable readers used them to copy styles and pick fabrics and colors and keep up with what was considered chic during the time. In the Regency era, they were hugely popular and appeared regularly in magazines as a way to show what trends were spreading all over the UK and Europe. There's loads of them in museum collections and archives and online libraries where you can download high-resolution copies of them. I just love doing that to see some of the detail on the clothing and the colors. There's something about seeing them in person though, and one of my favorite places that have showcased fashion plates was at the Bankfield Museum in Yorkshire. They've done some amazing exhibits on period drama costumes and original clothing with the most gorgeous, detailed textiles and fabrics.
So the only bad thing about these fashion plates is that they are double-sided, which means it has been so hard to decide which part goes on the wall. However, with this one, I had to decide on this beautiful lady because the opposite side is taped up and you can tell that, and I don't want to mess it up. But look at the colors. I just love the colors of these. And you can find these fashion plates online. They are copyright free, so you can use them in designs if you want. You can put them in prints if you'd like, or journals. I'm thinking that's buttons all the way down. Like, ugh, that coat, just gorgeous. And the hat. And then the designs, I feel like they just help inform so much about the time period and some of the fabrics and some of the patterns that would have been back there, and like the accessories like hatwear and reticules, shawls, spencers, all the different stuff. On the flip side is an adorable couple. Look at that. Look at that bright yellow shawl. Is that not gorgeous? You know, like those muffs that they have in Bridgerton? Like, just huge. But anyways, it annoys the ever-living you-know-what out of me when I see this time period in muted colors. And as much as I love the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, it's really bad for that, for showing almost no color and everything to be kind of monotoned. The stills that have come out of the new Netflix one kind of look like they're going in that direction, and I'm somewhat dreading it. I'm really hoping that those are just like one-off cases and that they will show some color. And so when you see a period drama where everything is so monochrome and muted, you're like, why? I'm not gonna wanna step back in time with you during this. You make it to where I don't wanna live in this world. And I understand that sometimes there's period dramas where things are a bit darker and they have serious messages to them and things like that. But you're wanting people to still be immersed in the world you're portraying on screen. There's a new period drama called King and Conquer about the Battle of Hastings. And one of the biggest complaints that people have said is that it doesn't have enough color, that it is just, everything is mud. The entire thing is mud. And I know a lot of it's like war related, but sometimes what it feels like is that they're saying, in order for you to take this seriously, for this to feel like it's a battle, we're going into battle, and for you to see this as a real like war drama, then everything has to be dark, including the clothing, including the spaces, including, you know, when people are talking in rooms with dark furniture. I get it, those spaces would have been a bit darker, but they also infused color into the tapestries and into the paintings. And we see them in museums today, and then you watch these period dramas and everything is just dark skies and dark rooms, and it makes zero sense to me. Anyways, the couple, it says they're from 1807. I feel like this one's just a tiny bit later, like maybe 1815 to 1820, but you guys know I am not the best costume person, which is why there's so many other creators on YouTube that are really good at that. And not to say that I am not knowledgeable, because I am, like, I think I've got more of a knowledge than the average person, but I am so much more focused on like the societal side of things. Like, I love a good scandal. I love a good Regency scandal. And for me, I know a lot more about that side of things, about like serial killers and scams and blackmailing in the Regency period. When I first started this channel, it was actually a podcast with my husband, Jordan, where we recapped episodes of Bridgerton. And I used to do history segments on the podcast where every episode it would be about something different to do with a plot element that happened in Bridgerton and then what the historical equivalency was. So the history moment at the end of the episode would be like dueling, like the history of dueling, because in the first season, Simon and Anthony duel over Daphne. And so I think I or Jordan did a deep dive on the history of dueling and why it became illegal. And so I was like, I really miss doing that, sort of doing those history moments, because I know I do more kind of like commentary style things. And so I'm considering potentially doing that in the future, where maybe we could have some history, very history oriented, but it could be all around the history of things connected with period dramas. But if you'd like that idea, put it in the comments, let me know. Look at that. Look how pretty that pink is. And that muff is huge too. I want to know whether or not that would have been really like the size of it. I feel like that would be heavy to carry around like that, right? I'm also guessing it was really warm. This one's just fun and cute. It looks like they're at a ball or going to a ball. I love like the level of accessories, the feathers, the flowers. This is a bit later as well. I think this is 1850s. So I've got a good range of time periods in these fashion plates, and I think the hardest part is going to be figuring out where to put them all, because I only have so much space on the wall here, and I'm looking around and I've got a lot of prints going on, so we'll see. It is 12:30 at night. This is why I use a script for my content. Even though these are just gonna stick on the wall and it's not gonna make much noise, I'm tired and I don't want to disturb my neighbors upstairs. So we are going to wait until the morning.
Okay, it's the next day and it's time to get everything on the wall. I don't know how you vloggy girls do it, because I'm like, I don't know if I have enough B-roll. I don't know what I should be filming besides myself talking. So, you know what? We're going to put on like a montage of music while myself and Jordan get everything up on the wall. He's going to be so thrilled about this. So here we go.
Oh look, my knight in shining armor with my cup of tea. Oh look, you're not in the frame because you're too tall. Would you like to tell the people, hello? You haven't seen some of our period drama besties in a while.
I had hair last time.
Oh yeah,
Wait.
I forgot about that. Back when we were doing the podcast, you did have hair. Okay, so I'm thinking that Charlotte should be the anchor of the wall.
It's funny that yesterday you said Charlotte's staying in the front room.
Well, you know what? I think Charlotte is a bit of a guiding light for me. So I think she's meant to be front and center, kind of staring me down, judging me. You know, wait, we've got to take the things off. This is a really professional operation here. I'm totally going to keep all this in.
So I would say off to the side, because then she's more likely to be in shot.
Yeah, but then the problem is we're going to say that for everything that goes up. I'm going to be like, I want that in shot. It's not going to go all on shot, you know what I mean?
Well, of course not, but she's like one of the key...
Yes, that's true.
Also, do we have a spirit level?
Professionals.
Nobody said that I needed to be a professional.
Okay, well, I guess we're just going to have to eyeball it.
Okay.
So, what do we feel?
Pemberley?
Yeah. So for those of you that are new to the channel, Jordan and I met in our undergrad. I moved to Wales kind of on a little bit of a whim and decided I wanted to do an entire degree in the UK. And we met during our undergrad, and then we did our master's together. And we are both avid readers. But the fun thing is that we read in completely different genres. So Jordan is a big sci-fi and fantasy nerd. I'm a big history and romance nerd. But it's been cool because we have, yeah, I like it. I love how I have no design sense whatsoever, and this is just like, what's going up right now? Very fun. Anyways, what's been fun is that we slowly over time have like mixed our interests together, and there's times that I have watched some sci-fi stuff that I wouldn't normally, and Jordan has watched every single version of Jane Austen, whatever, whenever, and he's a really good husband for that. He's watched every single version of Mansfield Park and Persuasion and Pride and Prejudice. He just doesn't remember which version is which, but he has seen them all, and he does sit through them all.
The first ever version of Pride and Prejudice that I ever saw, though.
Oh my gosh. I was so angry about this, just on principle.
Was Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which was actually really good, and I think was a perfect introduction to the story. What's going up next?
That was his first introduction to Jane Austen, and I was like, are you kidding me? Okay, so things that have... Oh, this is fun, this couple here. What do you think? Should the couple go underneath?
I mean, that will definitely be blocked.
I know, but that's what we're dealing with. Also, you might be putting up a floating shelf.
Right now, where?
I haven't decided yet, which is why don't go farther than over there.
How big is the floating shelf? Have we measured it?
Don't ask me what our process was setting this up because it was honestly all on vibes. Since we're renters, everything went up with command strips so it can all come down easily later. All of these pieces were really affordable. Watercolors, lithographs, modern prints, that kind of thing. Your girl's got a PhD in history, so we have to keep things affordable over here. I've focused more on slowly investing in good quality equipment that's going to last a long time rather than, spending a lot of money on super expensive backdrop pieces. But just because these were affordable doesn't mean they're not historical and meaningful. The biggest thing I've learned is not to wait until everything is perfect. It's been a really rewarding lesson to slowly build a setup that works for me, that allows me to create in the stage of life that I'm in right now, and letting the different spaces that I've filmed in evolve as I've grown and evolved.
All right, so this is the final look, guys, from this side of the office. So here's the desk, and here's the background. I mean, you can see just how close the wall is. We've got like a printer right here, so it's really tough to try and make things aesthetically pleasing in such a small setup. And especially because like the walls in this room are so high. We have storage up here. And so trying to fill every inch of this flat with pictures would just be crazy because it would take a lot of time to be able to acquire that much stuff. Anywho, so I've left a gap right here just because the chair is so big that you can't see behind it. And it was so hard for me not to be like, I want everything to be visible. And so I've left that blank. However, I will be putting something there. That way, if for whatever reason I decide to use a different chair or whatever, the space is filled up. And plus, you want it to just look cute because it is your office, right? Is this the most impressive setup in the world? No, but it's practical and it's colorful and I like it. And you know what? I can't wait to record so many things in this room. So I'm pretty much happy with this. The hard part with recording in a space that's so tiny is that it's hard to create that depth that you want for things to like blur in the background and for it to feel very like atmospheric and cozy. And so I've tried to do that with, I've got an extra light that has like a pink color on it that is shining on some of the artwork in the back. And I feel like just filling up the space in the wall with a bunch of different kinds of items, whether that be like prints or the molds, or like I've got some fake Bridgerton-esque flowers up here that I think are just fun in the corner of the shot. And so I kept thinking about not using this chair and using a stool, but I sometimes record for 2 or 3 hours and I need something that's going to support my back for that. And these are gaming chairs. And when Jordan first suggested that we get gaming chairs, I was like, oh, no, those are not cute, but it's a Secret Lab chair and it's the most comfortable chair to work in ever. And so for me, I am comfort over cute when it comes to having a functional space like this. And this is an office at the end of the day. And so being able to have something that I can sit in and be comfortable in is important. But it does take up so much of the shot compared to like my new space in the US where I've got like space to breathe and it kind of feels like you're in an 18th century home or something, or at least it's inspired by that. One of the only annoying things is there's some white space down here that I wanted to put something there, but they're literally plugs right under the shot, so it's just impossible it's fine. I'm trying not to be a perfectionist about this and really accept the space for what it is, because this is all about us being able to explore period dramas and history and historical fiction and get to making videos. Thanks to my husband for helping me. Come here.
I am just a body.
We've spent, what, 3 hours doing this?
Yes, maybe. I don't know. Didn't really count.
Yeah, so thank you so much. What I will say is there's so many cool YouTubers who have amazing spaces, and it can feel a bit intimidating to try and recreate that when you have a really small space, when you're renting, when you don't have certain types of equipment, that sort of thing. And so it's important for it to be functional as well as cute. But I wanted to put all these different pieces up that were Regency inspired, Victorian, Agatha Christie, all the different things. And so what was it that you just said where you were like, well, the rest of the
flat looks horrible now because there's nothing on the walls. Actually, no, that's not true. There are a couple of things that are left. The majority of them are now on the back wall here, which, you know, looks great, but yeah, white walls everywhere else.
I guess we're gonna have to get some new prints, you're gonna have to take me antiquing. You excited?
How about instead we just put my things on the wall?
This is true. The hard part about loving different genres is that you also have different, what is it, like aesthetic goals, I guess? Like different vibes. Jordan has a very like, what would you call it? Like a dark room medievally type vibe. And I am very much like light academia. I know there's like dark academia people out there. And I would say I'm like whatever the opposite of dark academia is, I am like light quirky academia. And you are...
I'd be closer to dark academia. I mean, really, if this were our place and we were, you know, remodeling, I would probably put like, you know, those panels on the walls to make them look like a Victorian like reading room type.
Oh, I love that though. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that, you know, they're calling it millennial green now, but I would like
dark green.
I would like that dark green, like that for a reading room. Like you to me, you need a darker room that doesn't hurt your eyes. I don't know. I get quite annoyed with bright lights, so I'm more the wizard in the tower.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
We'll have to see. One day when we own a house, we can have different rooms that have different themes in them. And I will have my little cottagey look maybe in the kitchen, and maybe I will compromise and we will have a bit of like a Victorian /
I think something medieval would be cooler than 50s. I know that you would.
I do like.
You would more prefer 50s than medieval.
Yeah, maybe. I think it depends. But if we had like a nice huge office that was all like medievally, and you could have like a D&D setup and stuff, that would be cool.
Something like that.
That would be cool. So.
But yeah, so.
But this is just to say that you can create a nice aesthetic anywhere, and I think the main point of this is not perfectionism, but because Jordan knows I have spent a lot of time with the YouTube channel where I've been like, I really want to talk about this, or I really want to, you know, this has come out this week and I want to talk about that, and then I put it off because I go, this doesn't look good, or the camera isn't like working properly, so I don't want to use my phone, or I use a myriad of excuses thinking that I need to be some sort of, you know, film director in order to talk about period dramas. And the main thing that we're here to do is talk about period dramas and historical fiction. So I'm hoping that this nice little cute setup will be the perfect way to do it. So thank you so much. And thank you for watching. Okay, and I will see you in the next video where I will be sitting right here talking about our favorite period dramas. Okay, bye.